right. Well, welcome back, John.
Thanks, Jim. Good to be back.
Yeah. So, Dreamsville is kind of our latest how-to video on the YouTube channel. So I thought we'd go through a little bit of kind of going back and forth on our take of the the harmony and stuff. So when I talk about tunes with students, I generally talk about like what the ear is expecting
Right.
to hear and how something is fitting with that or not fitting with that. And so I generally like say, okay, key of C, or C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G dominant, A minor, B minor 7 flat 5, or diminished, or whether you're talking about triads or whatever. But those are the kind of the general things that the ears are gonna expect. And sometimes even I did this on banjo with a student the other day. It was, they've got like no understanding of music theory. Not banjo players in general, but this particular one. Yeah. So I'm just like, I'm gonna noodle on a bunch of notes, and you just listen to it. You don't have to analyze anything, and then I'm gonna play the tonic, and you're gonna hear that as the tonic.
Right.
It's like you don't have to crunch any numbers. You don't have to go into the theory. It's just your ear. If I play in the key of G for long enough, and then I play a G.
Yeah, that's what your brain is expecting.
Your brain it's expecting that. That's like home. That's whatever you want to call it. That's like the tonic. So, the same concept here. So that's how I oftentimes talk about it. So when we have, C major and we're in the key of C, and then all of a sudden we have G minor, the ear is, if you do a little, resolution in the key of C, and then your ear is going to hear that there's a G major. There's nothing real analytical about it, but you're going to hear G major going to C. But in this tune, they're playing around with your expectations. At least that's my perception. So you get G
which
minor,
is gorgeous.
So it makes it so pretty,
Yeah, sitting over the
the same C. Yeah. So so that's kind of a cool aural effect, I think, and nothing to really overanalyze there, other than it's minor, and we're kind of expecting a maybe a dominant 7th or something.
Yeah, and but like we talked about, it is in the previous video. It's Mancini.
Yeah,
and he's so good at surprising you.
Yes, yeah.
He just made everything work.
Yeah,
which I think is why Jacob Collier is such a huge fan of Henry Mancini.
Okay,
because Collier will tell you there is no such thing as a wrong note.
Yeah.
It's like Miles said, there's no wrong notes. It's the note you play after it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just these lovely, they're very cinematic, very surprising.
Yeah. Moody, maybe.
Yeah, very, very definite. And it's funny how that G minor 9 is such a relaxing sound.
Yeah.
Coming from the C.
Yeah.
You really wouldn't expect that.
Yeah.
If you were being all analytical and music schooly about it.
Yeah. And as kind of almost a little aside, but it's sort of related, there was one schooly kind of music professor who would say, and I didn't have him as a teacher, but I would overhear this, and I'm not going to get this exactly right, but he said, the minor 5 is like a unicorn. You know it exists, but you've never seen one. So that's kind of a funny little. But that's kind of like this little kind of minor 5. But I think he was mostly talking about it in the context of minor, but minor keys. But anyway, so that's that, and then. We get this nice little shift. So we go to looking at measure 4. Sorry. We have the minor 9 and 11.
Minor 9,
a cool voicing.
So we're keeping that C up on top.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then we have this little shift into the F sharp 9 and into this C minor 9 over the F.
Over the F.
Which is kind of, in a relative sense, it's the same as the G minor over the C.
Right.
You know, so
And
it's
it's
kind of,
and the amount of motion that he's built in.
yeah.
This, again, something, if you've watched us before, especially me spouting off here, I love inner motion in chords. I love seeing
Yeah.
that stuff. And we've got, C major 9, so we've got that D there. Got an E and a D. Got G minor 9, so we got the D is still in that chord, but we have an A in there. So it's like he's playing with 2 5s. Then you got the F sharp 9.
Yeah.
So that's a B flat or A sharp technically.
Yeah.
So he's moving up in the extensions.
Yeah.
So where he's got that, and then he gets you to.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's this whole inner. So where you got that, but he's giving you on top of that.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
Yeah, it's wonderful. It's really cool. And how to improvise, on some of that. I think that's where some of the viewers, might be interested too. Is how do you kind of work with that as far as improv too?
Yeah, I mean that bar 4 is an interesting measure. Thankfully, that F sharp 9 is only 1 beat.
Right.
It's
so you could really,
it's a passing tone.
just kind of outline it real quick and maybe move over or even just play a couple of notes.
Or just
even one.
take a breath there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Play 3 beats of the G minor 9/11.
Yeah.
Take a breath. Play the next thing.
Yeah.
Let whoever's comping behind you deal with that, or or leave the motion in the bass, and just don't worry about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there's F sharp. It'd be so easy if that was an F sharp minor, wouldn't it? Because we'd still have that A in there.
Yeah.
But we don't.
Yep. Yeah, it's an interesting shift. It's hard to like kind of pigeonhole it as like functional in a certain specific way.
Yeah,
it's weird.
Yeah, it is definitely not a textbook kind of thing. It is absolutely about that descending motion in the root of each chord, while you have that ascending motion in the extensions.
Yeah, yeah.
So he's letting you do this, and as a lot of Mancini stuff has a choir in it, that makes perfect sense. He's got contrary motion going on, maybe between like tenors and altos or something inside a chord.
Yeah. Yep. Very cool. So let's check out this this D minor, E flat minor to E minor on the next line of the lead sheet. So this is kind of an interesting moment. We have this F in the melody. We're in treble clef. F in the melody, and then that's a whole note, right? And then, but the harmonic rhythm is half notes, so you have this little shift, which turns this, this F feels like nothing special. At least that's my perception on the D minor. It's just a characteristic of that chord, and then all of a sudden it becomes, this really pretty 9.
Yeah.
Minor 9. It's like, wow, that's really cool. So the same note, and then it's just handled underneath differently.
Well, he's given us almost effectively the same motion as bars like 4 and 5.
Okay. Yeah.
He's going the other direction. So he's dropped it a fifth.
Yeah.
And he's going the other direction.
Yeah. He's turning it around on us. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's that same going, that D E flat instead of, he's got G to F sharp there, and then it's so cool. It's this bookended
Yeah.
motion.
Yeah. And then we get the E minor. And I kind of like how the harmony, it changes chords on 4. It's not necessarily that predictable 1 and 3
Right.
sort of thing. So you get this nice little motion over to the.
Yeah, it's funny. You feel it's almost like a false 3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and the 3 is always, a little bit of kind of an odd one, right? Because it's strictly in the key, like we were talking about with the expectations. You get a flat 9 on that note, on the chord. So a lot of times you hear it going dominant. I think for that reason, because if you want to hear the flat 9. It's a little bit. It's much more pleasant to have a major dominant kind of sound on it. I mean the flat 9 on minors is almost. I hate to say it, but it's almost a no.
Yeah,
And it's like kind of like okay. I could hear it in maybe certain contexts, but
if you're Schofield or Stern, carry on.
Keep going with it. I think, and I think in a melodic sense, I think it's totally fine too. And those guys play a lot of single lines, but
right.
As far as like a chord, I'd probably get some funny looks if I played that.
You're getting into real sort of cluster chord
thinking
instead of sort of a harmonic structure.
Yeah.
But on top of the theoretical third, we have rhythmically. It's an almost 3 feel.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I see what you're saying now.
I kind of.
I was thinking about the 3 chord, but
that's the same thing. The 3 chord too it's this weird sort of suggested third.
Yeah.
But rhythmically, because he's giving you 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
4.
Like that. I didn't even think about that.
So if you,
that's pretty cool.
Cut time. So it's. It's in 4, but you could think of it as 3 and 1 each time.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah.
And it totally changed the feel, but make it a little more propulsive.
Yeah. That's a really cool insight. That's something I've been thinking about a lot with as far as some of my writing efforts is I really want to make that a part of writing is like odd time signatures, and then it just sort of whiplashing you over, to something else. So that's kind of cool to think about it that way.
Yeah, and because there are lyrics, it's if you look, that 4th beat, we have the word in, we have ing, we have a, we have a y, and we have we. It's all single syllable. So he's using that 4th beat, as a breath.
Yeah.
Thing. It's Mancini. I mean, the man is a genius.
Yeah.
And it's so cool. Because it does give you sort of this 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. So you could really pause.
Yeah.
You could really stretch that 4th beat.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. And it is Dreamsville, so it is supposed to be somewhat, dreamlike. Just sort of wild things can happen. So yeah, cool. Then the A section, which is always funny how the Chuck Scher does it, because it's not generally the way that I kind of think about it. Like I would think about this as AABA, with just a slightly different A on the second one, but whenever, maybe I should start thinking about it like they write it out. A very long A section, and then B, and then C.
But I know that Scher is very good about getting original charts from composers.
Okay, yeah.
When they can. So this is probably how he wrote it.
Yeah.
Because you do have sort of that second half of the A. It does change.
Yeah.
When, just going from the C major 9 to the G minor 9 with the 11 on it.
Yeah.
And he had fun with those chords, didn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, and then so the last, let's see, the last few bars of the well, let's say on the second line, the second measure and third measure, we're gonna have that, all that going into C, back to C, and then the last two of this next section are gonna be the D minor. It's gonna go to E flat and then back to D minor. So rather than going to the E minor, it goes back to the D.
Yeah.
That's the part I'm looking at there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then you get the D flat. Yeah, and then the C. Yeah. And maybe I should have included the sharp 9 on the arrangement, but I tended to put the natural 9. So that's where, like we talked about on the behind the scenes one, make it your own.
Mm-hmm.
Take what I did and adjust it to your taste. For the viewers.
Yeah, I mean the sharp 9 does give you the 4 of the last chord of the A section.
Mm-hmm.
Gives you a 4-1 in there.
Mm-hmm.
That's his classical training coming through there. We will now go amen. So again, it's that inner harmony movement that he's doing really cool things with.
Yeah.
Because he's keeping, for the last 3 bars of the A section, there's an F.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So he's really, actually the last 4 bars, he's really holding that 4 chord.
Yeah.
That's kind of extra long
Mm-hmm.
he's getting his point across.
Yeah, absolutely. So the bridge section, we've got a lot of these minor 2/5s happening, or at least starting out, and then maybe a little later. So these minor 7 flat 5s, I'm going to 7 to the E minor. So those are things that we just really have to work with as musicians. It's just another flavor of 2/5s, but oftentimes on minor, sometimes on major.
Yeah, it's like I look at that F sharp minor 7 flat 5.
Mm-hmm.
Really cool chord, but you could almost treat it as a C6.
Okay.
Or like a C half diminished with a 6.
Okay. Yeah.
So he's kept you in C, but he hasn't.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So 6 and a sharp 11. Yeah, and then then we get this F sharp minor here. So they've got the D over the F sharp, or as an alternate change, do the B minor 7. Okay, then we have the F. Very pretty.
Yeah.
And then we have the G sharp minor 7 flat 5. Okay. So one thing of the chord melody you could do is do just a little inversion, root position, and then first inversion to help out with those.
Yeah. And bass players out there watching, watch that flat 5.
Mm-hmm.
9s and 11s, okay, easy, it's a 2 or a 4.
Yeah.
We can move around, but that flat 5 is vital.
Yeah, it's very important.
Because if you get that wrong, it's your fault, not the soloist. You can't blame it on the soloist this time.
Yeah. It's a fundamental part of that chord.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really important not to play a natural 5 on that.
Yeah, because they're telling you that it's basically diminished or half diminished, depending on what's going on here.
Yeah.
But you absolutely have to hit it.
Have to hit that.
Yeah. especially like in the B, that F sharp minor 7 flat 5 to a B7. So they could just write pedal B for that whole bar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's kind of a cool thing. If you play a B, and you're thinking kind of B7, you have sort of a sus with a flat 9 sort of sound, which is kind of cool. And then you can just change the third, and then yeah. So absolutely, yeah. That's cool.
Yeah. So that's something for bass players. Look at parts like that where you can pedal.
Yeah.
Especially where you've got a lot of motion because you got that da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
Pardon my singing. You've got a lot of harmonic motion in the melody and in the chords.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to get out of the way.
Yeah.
So just pedaling
Yeah.
a B there, just, hit a B, grab a beer, wait for the next bar to come on.
Right.
It's a slow tune.
Yeah.
And you could keep that B going halfway through the next bar.
Yeah. Yeah. And then improvisation too. You can play the 5 over the whole 2/5 and let the piano player or other guitarist or vibraphone player play those changes, and you're just thinking 5, especially on fast tunes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, just you kind of play that because it's all kind of in there.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like a sus sort of sound when you have you put the 5 as your bass note, and then you put the 2 over it.
Yeah.
It just feels like a suspended.
It
kind of
does.
chord.
Yeah. Which is, and I mean, I love these first 3 bars of the B section because you can pedal B for 6 beats, and you pedal C sharp for 2.
Yeah.
You can
And
go.
then you can keep that going on
You
that
can
F
keep.
sharp.
Yeah.
Because it's a
or you
natural
can.
5 on that one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
Or
then
go in a different direction.
and then it goes to a D.
Yeah.
I mean,
and
it's
then so
D,
you just,
D over F sharp, but in that case, I would ignore that F sharp in the bass.
And go up to the D.
Go up to the D.
And then if the piano player is playing B minor, then you're playing the 3rd
Right.
of their chord.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool. It's all a lot of fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, there's just that motion,
Yeah.
and then gets you up to that F. That's an interesting line, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you've got these incredibly pretty chords going on over it. You have this almost Russian-sounding bass line going underneath it.
Yeah. That's cool. See, then the second half of the B section really have this kind of cascading circle of fifths, string of 2/5s and various minor keys.
Yeah.
Essentially. And it goes all the way down. So that's a pretty long chain. One thing that I like to do, which probably ties into the bass, is and I do this in kind of Brazilian comping and also big band comping, where I will play kind of like this sort of thing. Yeah. So then and a lot of times what I'll do is I won't play the 6th string so much.
Right.
But just having this, because if you take the same chords and you're trying to force everything into them, your voices are going here and then here and then here and then here. So it's really just a nice slow path.
Yeah.
To your end.
To get you there, because that is the melody's again a little busy there, busier than it was in the A section. But the rest of it's very linear.
Yeah.
So I like that, just doing that, kind of playing with the inversions and doing the walk down.
Yeah. So that's kind of effective. And then also if you're playing like in a big band, or especially like the older big band style, you're really kind of trying to get that tenor part basically. You're trying to sit above the bass, obviously.
Right.
But not too high into the horns, so you're just getting this little thing going.
Right.
Yeah.
But that, or you could just try to sit firmly between the tenors and altos.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yep.
Because I've worked with guitar players who do that. That's kind of
Their
that's the
space.
spot they're ending
Mhm.
because the piano is covering a lot, the bass is covering a lot, the drums are covering a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
People forget drums are a pitched instrument,
Mm-hmm.
despite what some drummers do to them. So finding that place,
Yeah.
it's we've worked in the same big band, and there are times where I look at the bass part and go, oh, absolutely not. And I'm going to go up and play around where the tenor trombone is.
Yeah.
I'm going to sit there
Yeah.
because it just makes more sense.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. Yeah. The drummer. Drummers are.
We love drummers.
Yeah. They're always late. They're always asking for something. They're always puzzled that they don't have enough space because they're the last to show up. Well, I shouldn't say all of them.
No,
but
we work with a couple. There's one I've been working with for a decade and a half now.
yeah.
Our friend,
Mhm.
he is there before me
Wow.
usually.
Wow. That's
And
pretty, yeah.
I am retentive about getting
Yeah.
to gigs early.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say he's the exception.
Yeah,
to
there's a couple of guys who are really, really early, and the rest of them, not so much. And there is never enough room. There's never enough room for the bass player.
Yeah, there's never enough room for anybody. Yeah. It's a problem.
Yeah, we've. Were you on that gig in Havre Grace did you do that big band gig?
Yeah,
once?
I did one of them. Yeah.
And they tried to get me in a little corner on
Yeah.
a riser,
Okay.
but I was doubling, so I had
Yeah.
upright and electric.
Oh yeah,
And they gave me like this 4 foot by 3 foot space.
yeah. Wow, yeah.
And I looked at him, I was like, I have to put this bass down.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
With the pin out, it's 6 feet long.
Yeah.
I need to be able to,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
take up physical space.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, so bass players think about what the drummer is doing and where he tunes,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
because that will change how you.
Mm-hmm.
Most drummers tune their kick between sort of 55 and 80.
Okay.
So a little kit is going to be higher pitched.
Yeah.
A bigger kit, of course, lower pitched. Most stages ring right around 45.
Mm-hmm.
Big stages sometimes lower, but usually it's 45-ish. So you're just above that.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about the high pass filter in the past.
Yeah.
That's why, but watch where the kick is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because if the kick is there,
Mm-hmm.
if you're not locking exactly with him
Yeah.
at the same pitch,
Uh-huh.
it's a sonic mess.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you can play an octave higher if you need to, but
Yeah.
be aware of what it is. Like I say, it's a pitched instrument. Be aware of what the drummer is doing and how he's working,
Yeah.
especially on a fast tune or a loud tune.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a lot of notes coming out.
Yeah, and I did get to use that high low pass filter pedal, and at this last gig that I did, and I loved it. It was really nice.
Really cleans
It
things
was
up.
really, yeah. And
You don't
then-
lose anything.
Yeah, and I got at least one comment from one of the horn players, which I think may have related to the pedal, where it was like, I don't remember what they said, but something about the balance, or or how they could hear me well or something.
Right.
So I was like, okay, that's good. That's good, because what you're hearing is not always what someone 5 feet away is hearing.
Oh, definitely.
So
Definitely. And there's so much low end that comes out of a guitar.
yeah.
You don't realize
Mm-hmm.
just, stuff that's down in the sort of 30 and 40 hertz range
Oh yeah.
from your hand hitting and,
Mhm.
thumps and
Yeah.
all that stuff. Yeah. I was actually, one of my repair customers today picked up his bass and we talked about
Mhm.
about
Yeah.
high pass filters. And he's like, oh, yeah, I use it on everything.
Wow. Okay.
He's like, especially for pit gigs.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Because
Yeah.
he's like, there's enough going on, and there's probably a timpani player and a
Yeah.
synth player, and
Yeah.
especially on these modern modern musicals.
Yeah.
And that's all this guy does is musicals.
Wow.
Like 7 days a week. It's all he plays. And he's like, oh no, everything has a high pass on it.
Wow.
He's like, I cut it hard at 50.
Yeah.
Because you're still going to hear that.
Uh-huh.
It's still going to come through because you're not actually hearing 32. You're hearing 64.
Yeah.
We really hear
overtone.
the octave above.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
So I'm going to keep harping on it. I've said this in multiple episodes.
Yeah.
High pass filters are your friend.
Yeah.
And a low pass can be insanely useful, especially for our guitar players.
Yeah.
If you're in a bright room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's another thing. So I had it on both sides. So I think staying away some of the bright horn sounds, just staying out of their spectrum a little bit.
Sure.
I think that was helpful for them. So
well, it's like the traditional sort of 70s jazz guitar sound, which is very rolled off.
Yeah.
On the top end. It's because a lot of those guys are playing through polytones.
Yeah.
Which have no top end. Just none.
Yeah.
I don't care what the knob says. There is none. So you got that very muted.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have that in their head that's how.
The equipment, I think, shaped what some of the modern tones are, which are maybe not necessary anymore.
Yeah, because that really rolled off. It sounds like a synth.
Yeah.
It does not sound like a guitar.
Yeah. And I find that, one thing I recommend too, which I found helpful for myself, was to practice with a lot of high end, because you're going to hear a lot of detail and a lot of technical things that need to be addressed, when you're trying to work on developing technique.
I was going to ask, do you find that forces you to play maybe with a little more intent? You're a little more careful on your right hand? Your picking, because that brightness will tear your head off if you get it wrong.
Yeah,
it's really forcing a lot of control.
Absolutely.
And you're muting.
Yep. I would say it mostly has to do with the right hand. Yeah, absolutely. And the right hand is something that I really emphasize in my private lessons, which everybody wants to ignore, unfortunately.
I know everybody gets worked up about this.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
That's easy. This is the tricky bit.
It is. It's very tricky. Setting things in motion and
Yeah, starting and stopping.
Yep, stopping notes. Yeah, that's right. I'm working on the bass line for Tipitinas, and this it's not a particularly hard part. It's like kind of boom, ding, 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 ding. I'm working a lot on that last note when it cuts off.
Oh yeah.
What
key is that in?
It's an A minor. So I'm doing a lot of listening on trying to hear when he's cutting that very last note, and
Is that Jeff Andrews on that? Or?
I forgot his name, but I'm not sure who's on the album. But I've watched some live versions. I can't remember his name outright.
Yeah, I know. I'm always careful to, shortcut. Really.
Doing the little pops.
I'd rather that was a little more percussive.
Yeah.
Because you could. Be easy to let that ring.
And I almost didn't notice the very last note, by ear. I almost didn't hear the attack on it. But as I've been listening, I'm like, there is something. He doesn't hit it real hard, but.
No, it's ghosted.
Yeah. The little things like the right hand can control those elements, like how loud or soft you play something, and when you cut it off, like you're saying. I find this is my one of my many rants, but about amplifiers, and the reason I use QSCPA speakers, they stop. A lot of bass cabinets, the note doesn't stop; it rings. The cabinet's ringing.
The cabinet's ringing along, and No. When I stop the note, that's where I meant it to stop.
Yeah, yeah.
But some of the cabinets, yeah, it's a big sound. It makes a big noise. Well, it is noise.
Yeah.
The cabinet won't get out of your way.
Yeah, yeah.
Some amps are that way too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pay attention to the right hand. It's like I'm working on the whole kind of Hadrian Farad, Dominic DiPiazza
Okay.
thing. Dominic put out a book,
Okay.
which I have.
Yeah.
It's exhausting, but just getting that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that technique. I've only worked on it a little bit, but even just with one finger, I know you're using a couple of fingers, but I've seen Schofield do that a bit. Kind of the thumb, index.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, you can
Work on that one too. Yeah.
You can do plenty, and it's really even.
Yeah.
It's surprising you wouldn't think
Yeah.
that your attacks would be so even and tonally
Yeah.
similar.
Nice.
So
Very cool.
so much practice to do.
Yeah, no, it kind of never ends. There's always something, and it's funny. Like as I progress technically, I'm going more and more to the conventional technique. I was like, sometimes I get on my students for like taking the long scenic route on a lot of stuff, and I keep telling them to do the same thing, but I'm guilty of it too. It's like, the standard way to hold a pick is really it's just kind of the best.
It kind of works, yeah.
So it's kind of like, I've been trying to refine it, and that sometimes you don't notice. Like I was telling somebody, like you get on stage, and then all of a sudden it's like, wait, I'm not really pulling that off. And a lot of that for me early on was the right hand. Really, it was like it just wasn't together enough. And when I did the red one a few months ago, did a video on the channel. I really had to commit on that to the standard way of holding a pick. Because if you get too much into this, it just doesn't.
There's no control there.
Yeah, and when you hold it, with kind of quote unquote correct technique, you deliver a punchiness and a transfer of power and energy that's just efficient, and it's there. It's present.
Well, you're taking advantage of the whole wrist and the back of the hand.
Yeah.
That way, because with that end-on thing, you're sort of here forward.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of power there.
Yeah.
It's very little control.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only person who's allowed to do anything different is Matteo Mancuso.
Yeah. But he looks like he's got some pretty awesome technique with finger picking. Well, I don't know if I've seen. Does he do plectrum picking?
Nope.
Okay, so he doesn't.
His father is a flamenco and Spanish player.
Okay. So
that's where he got it.
Yeah.
So he only does.
Yeah. Because I see his fingers like doing it's like a little crab or something.
Yeah. And sometimes he's just straight on. It looks like almost like bass players kind of used to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's doing that.
Yeah.
And then sometimes he's like this, or he'll turn it.
Yeah.
But he did an interview, really wonderful interview with Rick Beato.
Okay.
Where he talked about that, and it's fun to watch just for Beato's face, because every time he plays, you see Rick just go, oh. And then he's like, okay, well, I'm doing it like this, and this is this sound, and this is this sound. It's just but
cool.
He's the only one who's allowed.
Right. He's got license. Awesome. All right. Well, let's call it on this video. But thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you all in the next one.
See you next time.